Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry about that long delay there at the beginning. There's people here. What's up? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. I don't know what's going on here. I hope it's working for you guys. I'm looking at the stream right here, just sitting there loading. So hopefully my internet's not terrible enough. Killing it. This stream sponsored by Coffee and Blank Hat. mm. Happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully it's Friday where you are. Recius. Welcome back, everyone. I don't know if this time is actually better for anybody, but I figured we'd try a stream at least once at an earlier time. This whole time zone thing is kind of confusing because I guess technically doing it much earlier in the day would only be really better for people all the way in Asia somewhere. But oh hi, what's up, Cabral? Welcome everybody. Yes, what time is it where you are? Ghibli, welcome, man. What should we do today? Should we play Grim Dawn or should we do some Grim Dawn modding? Do some dev stuff? Talk about some dev stuff? Oh, I'm sorry, Dickie. Dickie only comes to grief me anyway, so. Nice, Central, that's not too bad. Woebringer, are you new to the stream or am I just crazy? What's up, Parashara? Welcome, man. All right. Man, you know what? Mod and use it as time to make a secret passage sounds awesome, but I probably can't do that without showing you guys content from the X-Pack. Now you got me thinking. Well, we'll do some mod stuff anyway. How about that? All right. Yeah. Why don't we do some of that stuff anyway? I'll make a mod that doesn't have any of the stuff from the X-Pack actually in it. So I think we should be able to do that pretty easy. I'm going to share my tool windows with you, which is always dangerous. All right. Let's see if we can do this without getting in trouble because I'm sharing the wrong stuff with you guys. I'll make a mod and I'll start making a level, and maybe that level can be used as a secret passage. Who knows? You know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to make a level. I've always wanted to make a level that was like a giant canyon, like Grand Canyon style, with a bunch of like that mine scaffolding on it. So that's what we'll do. I'll do that, and we'll talk about how some of the mod tools work and all that kind of stuff. If you guys are interested in that. If not, then I'll just play the game. Why not? Freebie, what's up? Thanks for the auto host, man. Yeah, Ghibli, kind of Broken Hills, but I'm talking like extreme. I'm talking like big, deep canyon, so that some of the places, maybe you're up on the scaffolding, you can't even see the bottom of it. But Para, I don't know if I'll probably play some multiplayer in a little bit. Try to do something a little bit different. If anybody, let's take a vote. Let's take a vote. Who chime in if you want to? My camera's over here. A, play multiplayer. B, have me do some mod stuff and make a quick level and talk about how that stuff works. And when I say mod stuff, I do not mean expansion pack. I mean actually make a fresh mod. What do you think? All right. Ghibli votes mod stuff. Anybody else want to chime in? Mod stuff with some accidental. Wait. Which one was A? Which one was B? I can't remember. G Dante, what's up, man? Are you new to the stream too? I see a bunch of people chiming in that don't usually. I don't remember which option was A and which option was B. All right, let's mod some stuff. We can always play multiplayer. We can always switch to that. So Para, if you want to play some multiplayer, I'll ping you on Steam or something if we start playing. Para, if you want to play multiplayer, we'll do that in a little bit. Let's do some modding stuff. First, I'm gonna share up this window here. Let's see, we gotta add some windows to our stream here if we're gonna do that. This is gonna be Art Asset Manager. All right, so our first tool that we're gonna share is called Asset Manager, and that's this sucker right here. So basically, a big thing in game development is source control. And actually, it's a big thing in any software development. Source control. So source control basically is a tool that lets everyone who's working on the game or the software, if you're a software developer, work on things at the same time. It controls file permissions and backing up of files so that when a developer changes something, it can be reclaimed. If if I change something and screw something up, I can roll it back to an old change, and also to make it so that when I'm editing a file, someone else can't edit it. So like say I'm working on a particular level, I can check it out, and then Zentai can't edit it. So this is called the Asset Manager, and it's our source control tool. And that's weird how it's just kind of floating like that. Let's put it in the middle. This is our source control tool, and it lets us check out files, create mods, and all that kind of stuff. So if I'm creating a mod, see if I can remember how to do this now. I haven't done it, create a new mod in a while. All right. Where am I going to put the What's up, Dark Play? Welcome, man. Welcome back. Welcome all you guys. It's hard to focus on modding when I'm okay. So basically, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna create a new mod. So we go up here, we go to mod, new. We have all these lists of current mods down here. We can see GDX here. That's a good one, right? But we're gonna create this mod. I'm just gonna call it Josh Canyon because I want to try to I want to try to set up that canyon level that I've always wanted to build. I've always wanted to make like a giant canyon level, but it's probably not good for gameplay or performance. So maybe don't expect to see this anywhere. All right, so we got our new mod, Josh Canyon. I'm gonna create that, and hopefully this doesn't crash. Sometimes I have a really unpredictable internet connection here. Sometimes it makes the art manager flip out. Oh, and it did. Okay, let's try that again. Fail. Hyboreal, do you do any modding at all? Who in here has done any modding before? Yeah. Where's the surge? I'm not drinking any surge. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that was an insult, Hyboreal. I didn't mean it. You do a bunch of modding stuff? only every day. That's excellent. I have no, are you a crate dev and I'm not picking up on this or something? All right. Let's try this again. Josh. This might not work if I'm going to keep getting disconnected here. All right, let's see. It's going to work this time. Yes. Okay. So here's my mod, Josh Canyon. So basically, our mod has access to all of what was when we're in the editor tool. Now that we've created a mod, when we're in the editor tool, our mod will have access to all the assets that came before it. But this is sort of our new assets that are unique to this mod. So if I was to switch, say, to GDX mod, I'd see all the assets that were new to that. Today we're in Josh Canyon, and we're really not going to have a bunch of assets that are new at the start. We're going to be using assets that exist already. Those are going to be art assets from the core game. As we progress, maybe we add a couple quests. Maybe we do another stream on this. We add a couple quests, and we'll end up with a couple other mods. I was going to chew some gum, but that's really rude. How come I'm so early? Traffic Devourer. I moved the stream today a little bit earlier so that I could see if it was better for anybody, but My eyesight didn't deteriorate. I have these glasses. My wife's an eye doctor, so I have pretty good vision, but it's not good enough for her. So she got me these glasses, and I almost never wear them, but sometimes, sometimes I wear them because I'm squinting too much or something. Cynthius, I don't think very many of us. I personally haven't tried a lot of the mods that are kicking around, um, but I should. I should. I don't see why not. Mostly just because I don't have the time. You know, most of the time I'm sitting. When I'm sitting here, I'm either streaming with you guys or working on Grim Dawn. So, okay, cool. So we've got our mod now. We can build our mod. Basically, so the basic rundown of how the art manager works is there's three core types of assets in the game. Sources are source files like image files, like PNGs, max files that are like models for assets in the game, things like that. Raw text files, script files, all that kind of stuff is going to end up in this source files directory. This one I'm talking about. Assets are actually baked assets that are made from source files. Those are so essentially if I create a new file in here, I can right click on it, I can create an asset. Databases actually are the way that we how's the best way to describe this? Database files are the way that we combine things together. So for example, a character in the game is a set of art, right? You have the base character art, you have whatever that character is wearing, you have whatever quests it's attached to, you have whatever conversations it's attached to. All those are defined in a database entry. Same with like every single piece of equipment in the game and every chest in the game. Imagine a chest. A chest is actually a set of items, right? A chest sorry, we'll get to some of the other stuff like yes, Traffic Devour. Good call. Let's change the stream. Stream title. Edit. Grim Dawn. Let's make a mod. There we go. Done. All right, cool. Sorry. Thanks for the remind on that changing the title there. So yeah, anyway, database entries are stuff like if we want to have a chest has the art for the chest, any effects for when you open the chest, any animations for when you open the chest, and then tables that are linked to lists of items essentially. So we have weighted tables that define what items will come out of the chest when you open it. So that's a good example of what a database entry actually is. When we want to use anything that we've created in the art manager, we have to build it, right? That's going to create the in-game assets for anything that we've made. We haven't really made anything right now. We've made our core mod, but we need to build it in order to open it up in the editor. So let's go over to the editor here. Let's see, make sure I'm sharing it with you here. I'm cruising right along. Sorry if I'm going too fast for anybody, but I want to get into actually making something. All right, new window. All right, the editor's going to have, okay, here we go. All right, now, let's move our video capture device up here so you can still see my pretty face. All right, so now that we've made our mod in the art manager, that sort of sets up the file structure for the mod, gets us ready to actually start using it. So now I can go over to here to this is our actual world editor, and I think you're going to miss a bunch of the pop-ups that come up in this because I'd have to. I won't do that anyway. Let's make another window capture device and pop-ups. Boom. Now you can actually see this. Okay, cool. So annoyingly enough, you have to create a unique window share for every one of the pop-ups that shows up. So we create our mod. So if we look in here, we can select the mod. We create a Josh Canyon. Boom, right there. We want to create a new world because we don't actually have a world file for this, and we'll call it Canyon World. A world file is like the thing I opened last week when I showed you all the level files that were in the base game. That's a world file. The world file contains all your separate little level files. So we're going to say create a new world. We're going to call it Canyon World. And here's our world. It's completely empty. Nothing in it so far. Really just interesting. Ghibli, what are you not seeing here? You're seeing stuff. You're fine. seeing this now? You guys all getting all this? Sorry, because I have to keep adding windows to the game. Dante, you want to see make it so that Java and Flash Player doesn't crash? Two things that have nothing to do with Grim Dawn. Scythius, can a game like Grim Dawn be made in Unity? Absolutely, a game like Grim Dawn could be made in Unity. It's not such a simple task, though. One of the things that makes the tools that we use to make Grim Dawn makes us able to make Grim Dawn in those tools is that there's a bunch of stuff that's built very specifically for how an ARPG works. Like the database structure that I was talking about earlier. Unity can do some of that stuff, but it doesn't have tools built in for doing things like creating big tables of items and all that stuff. So an engine like Grim Dawn, if you want to create an ARPG, it's better to have a custom engine to start with. If we were going to use Unity, and if we end up using Unity, for example, if we in the future, if we're making sequels or anything like that, we end up deciding to use Unity, we're going to first have to build a bunch of custom tools for Unity to do things like manage item drops and databases for item drops and system for spawning monsters. Right now, the system for spawning monsters is very custom to the way that Grim Dawn works and the Grim Dawn tools work. You can't. Oh man. Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting to transition myself above the editor window here. Let's shrink it down a little bit anyway. That way we won't cover ourselves. We can actually see our manager. Oh yeah. Too many windows to manage. In any case, we've got our mod. We've got to add new terrain to our. First thing we need to do for our mod is add new terrain. So we don't put that in maps. This is gonna kind of mess up every time here because there's pop-ups and pop-ups and pop-ups. Let's add another pop-up. Window capture device. All right. All right. Cool. All right. Now. Oh man, so ridiculous. Now I can transition this in. You can see this pop up too. Okay, so cool. So we've got our world file. We've got our mod. We've got our world file. We need to start adding some actual levels to it. So we want to call this Canyon Level 01. Most of the levels that we create in Grim Dawn are 128 by 128. The reason we do this is because it's sort of a good building block for the amount of space that you get to build something and efficiency with the engine. Once I get a couple levels in here, I'll talk about how these levels are actually loaded and why that's actually important. But we'll put a level in here. I always save early and save often is the rule with all game development. If you don't save early, you're going to lose all your crap constantly. Pay? You want to get paid to make games? I saw on the forums that people are pretty sure that no one makes a living making games, so you don't get paid. All right, cool. We're going to add a couple other regions to this. We're going to call this Canyon 02. And we're going to keep making these the same size because, like I said, it's sort of the most efficient size to make things out of. So snap these around. So these are actually level files like we saw in the main game, but I'm just going to kind of align them up here. I'm probably going to do 6 to start with. Region, add new terrain. Just crank these out real quick. I'm not really paying much attention to it right now, but naming schemes, if you're going to make a real mod, naming schemes for stuff like your level files is really important because you're going to want to have distinct names. Once you have hundreds of level files, it's going to help you remember where things is to have distinct names. What are you guys seeing clearly enough here? Whoa, is that actually showing up in the stream? That just messed up. Yes, I'll show you the offsets in a second. You guys can check that out. I'll show you the offsets in a second. I'm putting them like this for a reason. So Um, uh, all right, cool. All right. So someone in the chat mentioned offsets. The first thing I want to say was level naming is really important because if you're going to make a big mod with tons of levels in it, you're going to start having NPCs and quests and chests and monster spawns and all that kind of stuff that are very specifically in or made for particular regions. And if your regions aren't named well enough, you're never going to figure out. You're never going to remember where stuff is. Another thing that people mentioned in the chat just now is the level offset. The way that the game loads levels is based on where you're standing in a level. It loads levels that are adjacent to it. So if you have levels oriented like this, you could be standing in the middle of this point or close to the middle of this point and loading 3 levels, which is a bit of a performance issue. So what we normally do in the game is we take each ever set of levels and stagger it by half. So this means that there's no place you can really stand that's going to load 4 levels. So like if I stand on the convergence of these levels, it's only 3 level files. And the same here. And if I stand sort of worst case scenario here, it's really unlikely that these other 2 levels are going to be loaded as well. What? Oh, that's a old. You guys posting pictures of Madeira getting his face chopped up? That's old, isn't it? That was when he fell down the stairs a few years ago. Yeah, 2009. what, why, why did Madeira's face getting murdered come up? Parashar. Okay, so basically, these files that we're looking at here represent our world files. Actually, and I'm actually going to add another one here, um, so that we can actually get a nice middle chunk here. Region, terrain. Boom. All right, cool. So now, if we take a peek in here, we have a big, huge, flat set of terrain. That's going to look a little messed up here. Turn those off. All right, so we got this big giant chunk of terrain. It's 7 world files. It's 7 world files, but this is a space that we can actually build stuff. So now that we've got our terrain actually attached to each other, we can go in here with various different tools and do things to them. So all these tools work seamlessly across all the different terrains. So I can raise pieces up, I can lower pieces down. I got a weird offset going on here. I think it's because I resized the window though. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that's strange. Huh. For some reason the editor doesn't like to be half-sized like that. Nice, Alf 1. That's awesome. What's the question about programmers and artists you guys are talking about? Is it more difficult to code stuff like or make 3D models from time sync point of view? Fartilis, that's an interesting question. I wouldn't say that it was more difficult or less difficult to do either one. It's a completely different skill set, and various different people work at everybody works at different speeds. So you've got some artists out there that can make a sweet high res model in a pretty short period of time, but that doesn't mean it's any less effort. And I guess it's kind of hard to compare. How high can I raise the terrain? I think you can raise the terrain ridiculously high, although I don't think I've tried in a really long time. Okay, cool. So we go to this one. So these tools across the top are raise, noise, smooth, plateau, and lower, which lowers at a certain distance. The raise tool, let's see how far we can go. Over here on our side, we have strength. So we can change all the strength, the speed, the size of it. if it uses a pattern. I don't ever use patterns, but you can. They're not really useful as far as I could ever tell. Um, let's see how high we can go though. Let's turn this up like 900. I don't know if I can't remember if this has a max. Oh, here we go. How high can we go? Well, I think that pretty much answers the question. Considering that this right here is like the scale of a guy, I think you can go higher than you ever need to. It's kind of ridiculous. Actually, the first thing that I'm going to do, I shouldn't have done that. First thing I'd like to do is grab a height for my terrain. So a lot of times what I'll do when I want a specific height is I'll sample one, raise my whole terrain up to that height. You can actually go into the other mode and drag the terrain higher, but I kind of like to do it this way. I think this kind of got built into me because some other tools really don't like if you do it the other way. Nope, I'm having a problem with one of my level files here. Oh, hey! Resizing the window got the editor all ticked off at me. Oh, it's still mad. Look at that. It's like working but not rendering. My computer's sad. Oh, so sad. What's going on here? Why is my stuff getting sad? Yeah, Elfie, I know that. It's just it's a matter of working. I don't like to make the raise tool like super gigantic because the bigger it is, the more it lags when you use it. Although I seem to be having that problem anyway, so it doesn't really make much difference. I'm going to save this out and open it again. Oh, which mod are we going to open? We're not going to open the expansion mod. All right, cool. You guys capped from this window now? Yeah, all right. Cool. So yeah, so Elfie's mentioned that you can change the radius of the tools. That's true. You can. The hotkeys for changing the radius of the tools are actually the. Wow, look at that. My game is super sad at me right now. There we go. The square bracket keys. So if you hold the square bracket keys left, you can make it smaller, and hold them right, you can make it bigger. And likewise, there's a bunch of other hotkeys that we'll get into as we go. Here's a quick one for the height for any tool that has a height to it. For example, the plateau tool right here, and I think actually also the lower tool, but I don't really ever use that. That might actually just lower a specific distance. The only tools I really ever end up using when I'm making a level are the plateau tool, the smooth tool, and the raise tool. The other ones do specific things that are not particularly useful because of the way that we make levels nowadays. A lot of these tools, like the noise tool and whatever the heck you want to call this, really are sort of made for making rivers, I guess. You can make a nice gouge for a river if you wanted to do that. They're sort of they this tool can be used to lower terrain as it is, just lower every time you click. If my editor wasn't being such a jerk today, I don't know why it hates me, but I really don't find those tools particularly useful, and a lot of them were set up back in the Titan Quest days when we did a lot of stuff that wasn't with assets, which we'll get into in a minute. Back in the Titan Quest days, we built a lot of the terrain. We started at least building a lot of the terrain just out of height map, which is what this level that you're looking at right now is called. But we sort of transitioned as machines got better, and especially now, we transitioned to doing a lot of the level with assets. So we use like a model of a rock instead of trying to make the height map look like a rock. So some of these other tools, the noise tool and the sort of like equal raise lower tool, relative plateau tool, if you want to call it that, they were made for that method of editing, and we sort of don't do that anymore. I'm sad my coffee's gone. I'm losing track of the stream here because trying to keep working on the mod. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. It might be part of the problem is it's trying to render it twice for the stream. All right, let's get this window shrunk down a little bit. How does that look? Put it in the middle, behind my head. That's funny. Oh man, now I have like I have all these extra windows. That's what we want right there. Okay, cool. Yeah, Fertilis, it's a good point. It takes a ton of work to make a level. So we've been working for what, half an hour, and yes, I've been stopping to explain stuff, but we really just scratched the surface. So we're gonna make a canyon level, and the first thing that we want to think about is, I might actually end up having to add a couple regions to this. The first thing that we want to think about is, while we do let you rotate the camera, uh, uh, Parashara, we'll take a look. We'll take a look at the foliage and stuff like that. We'll take a look at all the assets in a minute. First thing we want to do is think about the overall layout of our level. Um, and because we do allow rotation of the camera in the game, but we kind of want to think that most people who play your mod aren't going to actually rotate the camera because it's kind of a pain in the neck and it doesn't really enhance gameplay all that much. I guess it's a little bit different if you're using the controller, but that's also a small number of people. Most people are going to be looking at your game from the default camera angle. So you want to consider when you're making your level layout, what things the player is going to see from the default camera angle. So these two buttons up here set the camera angle the way they are in the game approximately. It's not quite precise, but this is the zoom and this is sort of the angle button. So if we were to do this, this would be our camera angle. We could actually pop down an NPC real quick. Here's the jailer from Devil's Crossing. So we can kind of see, all right, this is what a character is going to look like in here, and this is what the player is going to see. And like we were talking about before, with the reason we don't really go south from Devil's Crossing, the camera is always going to see more sort of up and to the left and up and to the right. So if we want to have a canyon that the player can see down into and really feel like they're down into, it's going to want to run sort of either vertically up the screen or sort of more optimally, it's going to want to run from the bottom left to the top right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to say, okay, from the bottom left down here to the top right up here is sort of where I want my canyon to go. So this is, I do this, I do some of this stuff in kind of a crazy way, but this is the way I usually do it. Set a height down there, and then I can use my plateau tool to select the height, the depth that I actually want my canyon to go at. So I'll take a peek at like over the edge of this. That's pretty deep. If I made the canyon this deep, there's going to be some places where the player can't see down into it, and that's kind of what we want. We want really epic canyon for this. So I'm going to try to trace a rough line where I think my canyon is going to go. It's a river canyon. There's probably some places down like the Grand Canyon. There's probably some places down there where it splits. Probably a couple places down there where there's like cut-ins. Oh, cut-in. I like to try to think about stuff like how the water would actually flow. So I'm actually imagining that the water in this case is flowing from this side of the map down. So like if the water came around here, right, it's gonna kind of cut into this embankment right here, right? And we might get like a cool beach down there. Sort of the same thing on this side too. And that might actually leave some strange outcroppings in this direction as well. So it's not really the realism like that is not really necessary for a game like Grim Dawn because of the perspective means that you don't get to see you don't get to see much of the level at once. You see only one little glimpse. So it's not like a game like the Elder Scrolls series where you're looking at this expansive set of terrain and you kind of get a sense for how it's all laid out. But I still like to try to get a little bit of realism in there. You guys talking about a level like where you can test your tunes out? Is that what you're saying? All right, I want to have some of these islands in the middle of the canyon, but I want to the set that we're going to the arts asset that we're going to use. Actually, you know what I want to do too? I'm actually going to use this stupid tool now that I said that I wouldn't use it. I want to try to get an upward cant to the level. Oh, that was a mistake. I'm going to change this back to positive 5 meters. I want the level to sort of feel higher on the one side than the other. So I'm actually going to go in here and raise this all up a couple times. which is a thing I don't normally do because what this kind of does or can do is create things like this where you have terrain this can be completely unplayable, right? You can't have those big dips like that in playable area. Para's asking if the characters can travel up and down steep inclines in the game. The way that the pathing works in Grim Dawn, you could let them do that. Here, let's check it out real quick here. So if we go back out to our worldview, that's weird. If we go back out to our worldview and look at this, and we select them all, and we go region or pardon me, pathing first pass, and that's going to generate pathing for all these. So we can go in here and we can look at view path mesh preview. Oh, that didn't work. I didn't put an av agent in there. In any case, the simple version of it is that the way that pathing works is it makes a nav mesh for the player to walk on based on parameters that you've defined. So you can say this area is not pathable, this area is pathable, and it will make a path mesh there. So if you wanted to have your hero walk up this really steep cliff, you could, as long as it's not beyond a step height. Like I guess this vertical one wouldn't work because there's probably no way it's going to generate nav mesh up that, but. We'll get to that after we get a little bit further built here. We'll get the actual pathable and we'll play through it. But my editor is in nav mesh mode now, so check that out. Back here. So we want to get first thing we want to do is sort of model out a rough layout and then sort of pick what assets we're going to use to make the level. Sorry, this is a little bit scattershot too. I hadn't actually planned on doing this today. Logorian. That's how I pronounce it. So I'm just going to get in here and smooth some of these areas out. The next thing we want to think about is like what's the actual gameplay space in here, and I'm thinking what I want to do. I want the gameplay space to be along the edge of the canyon, like hanging over the canyon. So I think what I want to do is I want to try to create the sense of like a hilly mountainous terrain over here where you maybe come. Well, maybe we'll do it down here so we get a little bit more canyon to play up ahead of us here. Might end up having to add actually another level here. But I'm thinking what I want to do is I want to get a place where sort of the player is going to start up here in what will be like mountains and then sort of move down to the canyon, get a really sweet view right in this area right here. So this will be a little bit like a vista view with a little plateau there. And then I want most of the rest of the level to be actually down inside the edge of the canyon and or walking across scaffolding. So this is what I'm trying to develop right here. I'm trying to get this sort of like epic reveal where the player maybe comes out of an underground over here where it's mountainous, approaches the edge of the canyon, and gets to look over it and holy crap, that's a huge canyon. In fact, it's so huge that it's freaking out the camera. Right. You get a sort of a big view from it here. This is one of the things that's like hardest to do in Grim Dawn is generate those nice views. Please add this to the X-Pack as the secret level. Maybe we'll see. Ghibli. I'm all about the vistas, man. That's what we're doing here. This is an entire level full of vistas, but I want to try to consider gameplay space too because I'm actually secretly thinking that maybe I might use this for something in the future. So I could sit here. So one of the traps of doing this is you could sit here and mess with this stuff all day long. Like I could just sit here and mess with the terrain forever, but we don't actually want to do that. What we want to do is make something. So we'll raise this up a bit more. We want this to feel like a mountain over here, right? The player's not going to see a lot of this, but you will see the player will see the sort of like steep face of this, right? They can tell that there's something gigantic there. And maybe we might actually put a little path up that goes along the edge of it here too. So, and this stuff will actually show up in the world map as well. Yeah, Super Troop. I totally agree. I think vistas are really important. One of the things I love about good level design one of the things that I consider good level design is when you can see places of the world that maybe you can't necessarily go to, or maybe you'll go to later, because it gets you dreaming about how big the world is and how much is going on in the world other than what you're seeing right in front of you. So I think that's really cool. So the next thing we're going to do, we kind of have a rough layout of our level here. If this was an actual level, we would probably want our canyon to be much longer than this because this is only of gameplay space. It's going to be some gameplay here, and then there's going to be some gameplay on our scaffolding that goes across here and across this area. But that's only like 128. So I guess we could have some backtracking gameplay here, or maybe what we should do is we should move our vista down here. Yeah, whatever. For this, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Ghibli. I've seen people comment that Grim Dawn doesn't have vistas in it. I think uh, compared to some of the stuff that they have, like even in D3, I think Grim Dawn has some great vistas, but there's some places that could be better. And the engine doesn't do that great a job with them. And the camera angle, first of all, is really hard to develop for because you really only have this downward looking thing. You can't get those like big scenery scenes or environment scenes that you can get from like third person camera. All right, cool. So let's keep going here. The next thing we're gonna do is we want to come up with when I'm working on a level. I usually start with a rough layout and then I come up with a zoo, what I call a zoo of assets that I can use. Um, and that zoo is basically just a giant pile of stuff that I'm going to build the level with. So I know what a lot of this stuff is called, so I'm just going to search for it real quick here. On the right of the editor, if you type things in, um, it'll filter the things that come up. So I'm actually going to get these granite cliff sets. So this is one of the things that I want to use to build this. So this is a set of rocks that all have this same texture on them. Not the same texture that I have on the ground right now, though. It's not really switching that. I'll show you why in a minute here. We got a bunch of different sizes. I generally find that when you have a set of rocks like this, some of them will be way more useful than the others. Like if you look at these three rocks, I probably don't, when it really comes down to it, I probably don't need all three of these because they're very similar, right? So probably what I'll do is I'll just pick the one that I like the most and I'll keep that in my zoo. But I do want, oh shoot, that was not good. What happened here? Oh man, my editor's got sad again. We might have to restart again. Oh no, it's just stream making it sad. I do want a couple different sizes of rocks, a couple big ones, a couple small ones, and then in the long run, I'm going to want a couple that are really small for actually decorating stuff with. This archway, I'm not a big fan of this archway. Looks too unnatural. The cool thing you can do with this, though, one of the things that you learn to do after a while of editing with tools like this is look at things different than they were intended to be. Like you look at this arch, and this arch seems like it was probably intended to make an arch in this direction, but if you rotate it and maybe make it bigger, you can make a section of cliff that looks like a cup. So like if I wanted to make this little indent, this in-cut here where the water had sort of cut into these cliffs, look really smooth, like it had done it over. Oops, it's getting ticked at me here. I have snaps on, that's why. Look really smooth. I could maybe use an asset like this to make an in-cut here that makes it look like the water had cut into this edge in a weird way. This one doesn't actually work for that, I don't think, but yeah, the editor. No, the tool crashes are mostly just because I've got so much other stuff going on. Um, there's a couple things that you can do that will crash the tools, and I usually try to avoid them. Here's a much better rock that I could use to make that sort of cupped cliff face. I'll keep that one around. We're gonna want that. Okay, so we got three cliff faces here. We could actually pop open the preview, make this quicker. We got this cool pointy one. I like that one too. That one, I'll keep that around. That might be not any different than the previous one. I don't need that one. Probably one of those pointy ones is enough. So these rocks are actually really cool. This is a different kind of asset. So these assets right here, you can use to build stuff with, but you can't walk on them. This asset actually has the ability to have nav mesh built on top of it. So we can take this kind of asset, and you'll actually see this a bunch in Grim Dawn. See, the reason I'm having trouble is because art manager messed up. you can actually take this right here and put it on the edge of a cliff like this and create an overhang with it. And then the player can actually walk up on top of this. Whereas if I take one of these normal rocks and put it out there, hanging off the cliff edge, it's not designed to have nav mesh built on it, so the player won't be able to walk on it. Like if I was to put that like that, they wouldn't be able to walk there. So these assets are actually really important. That they're going to let us create a cliff edge that the player can walk along the edge of, and there's two of them that I like to use. So there's this pointy one and this sort of rounded one, and together you can make all kinds of different shapes with them. There's also this rock bridge, which could be cool for our canyon. It might not be big enough, and if we make it big enough, it might look kind of silly. Here's a hotkey for you guys that actually care. F. If you tap on an asset and hit F, it will raise or lower it to the level of the terrain. If it's below the terrain, it puts it way down in the middle of nowhere. But if it's above the terrain, you can hit F, and it sets it to the level that it was intended to be at on the terrain. Some of these are actually raised up. You can see that the origin of this one is actually higher than the terrain itself. But this one, for instance, the origin of it is right in the middle. So if I hit F, it's going to land it right in the middle. Para, I do not have. Why is this my art manager disconnected? I bet. I do not have any levels. I do not have any like really arid stuff. There's some of the arid stuff from Act 2 of the game, but that's not really desert stuff. I think what you're looking for. Orange, can I make rocks fall on people? We can make rocks. We could make rocks fall on people. We'd have to do it in a little bit of a bass backwards kind of way. We could do a scripted sequence where it looked like rocks fell, and then we do a damage effect where the rocks fell to make it look like they fell and hurt people. You could do that. We don't generally do that kind of environmental effect in the game. Particularly, there's a bunch of different reasons why it takes a long time to script them. The engine's not really set up necessarily to make that easy. It's set up more to make a ton of things possible. Yeah, Marisa says you have to go. Marisa says you have to go in 15 minutes to got a Donner broke. Dinner break. Yeah. So in any case, this is pretty much. I think these rocks right here. I'm gonna grab a couple more actually. Don't really need that one. Don't really need that one. So these are some of the rocks that we're gonna end up using later on. Although we don't really need them in our zoo right now. So the next thing that we need are scaffolding. And there's a ton of scaffolding assets in here because there's a bunch of different places in the game where there was scaffolding. So this is another thing that's kind of annoying, the day-night cycle changes on you while you're editing. Bacon Go, this is actually my house that you're looking at right now. We don't have an office. Each one of us works from our own house, basically. It's the new thing. But yeah, quick tour here. This is my office. Here, let me look on the stream so I can see what you guys are seeing. This is where I sit. This is actually like my living room, but my desk is in there too. There you go, my house. Cool. So this is our canyon. We got a bit of a zoo going here of assets that we're going to use, and I'm going to dump a bunch of these scaffold in here too. Since the big part of the design of this level that I'm thinking of is I want it to feel like there's mines in this area, like people from somewhere else had to use the canyon, scaffolding in the canyon. I don't know if this makes a lot of sense to get to this mine, and maybe you're coming out of the mine and now you have to use the scaffolding to get to wherever they came from. So we're gonna pop a bunch of bridges in here. One of the problems that we're gonna have with these mines is I bet there's not any bridges that are long enough to cover the canyon that we have. But I probably want pretty much all of these bridges eventually. It's a nice big long one. That one might work. Sort of a medium wide one. Gonna get some broken pieces. We want those too for sure. It really helps to do this. It's sort of tedious. I know probably you guys watching me to check out all these assets like this, but it really helps when you're making a level to drop in all the things that you might use in the level. when you have levels you can look at, like when you can look at the base Grim Dawn game, that's kind of easier because you can look and see how things are used, and maybe you're going to use them in some of the same ways. But when you're starting a level from scratch, like this canyon level, there is an area that's kind of like this, but I've never made this canyon level before. I jumped down all the assets that I might use to do the basic layout because when I can look at them all in a big group, it kind of inspires me, and I can think of cool ways to use them, right? Every time I look at one of these assets, I think, oh, cool, this is set up to make a walkway, and I probably could take this walkway and like stick it in the side of a cliff somewhere, make the walkway contour the cliff, right? So check this out. This would be pretty cool. This is actually a concave walkway, but we probably need a convex one to work well here. But I could have this walkway attached to the side of the cliff, and that's actually gonna be really cool looking. I want to do a bunch of that in this level. Actually, that's sort of what I'm looking to do. I'm actually got to make my editor window bigger. Oh, I just committed one of the cardinal sins. That is actually something that will crash the tool. I crashed it. That time I did actually crash it. Killed it. Yeah, for some reason on my machine when I resize the window, even though my machine is a monster, when I resize the window, it gets mad. So I'm gonna open up our mod again. We probably didn't save for a while, which is gonna tick me off. But oh, there you go. We did save. We just didn't save since we started putting the scaffolding in there, which is no big deal. So we got our rocks. We're gonna get our scaffolding in there again real quick here. It's kind of a pain in the neck to edit with the window not full size. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, I think yeah, if you guys are asking to complete a full level like this, a couple good questions. So people asked, do we do I don't know why I'm having this trouble. Oh, I know why. I haven't added them to the art manager yet. So real quick segue here. Can you guys see this art manager window when it comes up? You can't. What if I move the editor window out of the way? Can you see it now? Oh man, frustrating. Frustrating manage all these different windows. But one of the things that we didn't do is we didn't go back and add our level files that we just created to our mod, so it's getting mad at me here. Let's do that right now. Josh Canyon, maps, add files. Okay, so yeah, so to answer your two questions, do we make layouts or do we make and pardon me, how long does it take to make a region? So I mentioned a couple times that we make almost all of our regions with these 128 file sizes. I don't usually when I start a level, I'll do a sketch of the rough content that I wanted, just so I get an idea of, like, if it's a town, I'll make a little circle. I'll be like, okay, the town is here, and there's a river here, and there's a mountain here, just so I get a rough idea of it. But I usually take only a couple minutes to do that. It's not worth putting a lot of time into doing that. And then I go right to this step right here, and start editing, doing the layout, because it's so quick to do this. It's actually sort of as fast or faster to do it this way, to just lay it out, than it is to draw it on paper. So you might as well do that, right? If you're making a giant, I screwed up here. I think some of my files in the wrong directory. And they are. It's all right, no big deal. Parasha, why does Port Valbury cause lag like frame drops? Because Port Valbury is really dense in both assets and enemies. There's tons of set dress and there's tons of enemies in that level. So it's just there's just more in a small space. Um, Generally, we try to plan that out and make that not the case, but with a small little level, which is sort of what that was intended to be, a small area, a roguelike with everything sort of packed in. That's sort of just how it ends up being. Um, it's a more intense area than other areas that we've had before. So, all right, back to our layout here. We want to go back to the scaffolding, get some scaffolding in there. Boom. Sorry about that. I lost it before, but we won't lose it this time. We're all good. We want. Hello. Check out our files here. Oh, it had to come back to the Aether Storms, didn't it? I like how I got blamed for that one. Yeah, Elfie, the right down here is a preview window. Honestly, I don't often use that. Um, Mostly just because Jesus. I think I made it mad again. What's going on here? Sorry, we're losing steam here because I'm answering all the questions all at once here. I don't usually use the preview window down here because for the most part, I know what things look like. And when you're new to it, you probably want to do that. You probably just want to surf through, but the preview window is so small. If you don't already know what stuff looks like, it's not really going to help you that much, to be honest. Wow, my computer's really unhappy with me having this window like half sized for some reason. In any case, let's get back to it here. Let's get our scaffolding in there. Search for scaffolding items. We look down here. What Elfie was talking about is you can see all the assets down here in the preview window, and I kind of look at that, but I know for the most part, like I want a bunch of these different bridges, big bridges, small bridges, bridges. That's going to be a really useful one. Uh, Here we go. When I finish the mod. Oh, you mean Bacon Go? When you talking about when I finish this level, you wanna check this out? I'd be happy to share this with you guys. If we're gonna work on this a little bit, I probably won't work on it unless I'm doing it in the stream because I could be working on stuff that we're actually gonna use in the X pack. But if you wanna check this out when I'm done with it, that'd be fine. I can totally do that. Paris really eager to play multiplayer here. Oh, I like all this scaffolding stuff. Oh, there's too much cool scaffolding stuff. Look at all this stuff. Okay, here's what we'll do. First thing we want to do is we want to start building out our canyon. Because the canyon, if you notice, we don't have a lot of cliffs in the game or anything like that that are built in the way that these are built. We wouldn't want to just have like a sheer, boring cliff that's made out of height map like that. We want to actually decorate it a little bit, make it look awesome. Smooth out this edge. Make our actual canyon wall here. I think our vista is pretty good. I'm kind of worried that it's not really going to show off enough. So what I might actually do is I might actually build a little path that comes up on this edge. Oh, I know you guys want to have stuff like T-shirts and toys, but honestly, we're so focused on development that we a lot of times don't even consider stuff like that. Um, that's actually a good question. The question about will we make quests that require the day-night cycle to be in a certain state? Uh, I don't prefer that. I think that's confusing for people. That can be really confusing for people. So I would say no, but you never know. Mud, I'm sorry. Last week when we were doing the stream, we talked about moving a little bit earlier. I moved it earlier just so that people could try to catch it. The people that usually miss it. If this time doesn't work, we won't keep it this way. So don't worry about that. We'll move it back. I'm adding a little bit of interesting detail to the edge of my cliff here, and I want to try to get the player up on this section a little bit more. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to raise this whole thing up a little bit, but we'll leave an interesting edge right there so that we can later decorate that, make it cool. Kind of wondering how I'm going to be able to get the player out on this stuff. So one of the things I want to do is I want to try to measure out like what's my span of some of the bridges that I can use. Like how far do they actually go? Because I want there to be places where the player just crosses the canyon, you know? Got snap on again. So that I can almost make that. So that's pretty much this distance between these two peaks is pretty much going to be my distance that I know what I can make a bridge cross, especially since I'm going to make scaffolding before I use these bridges. I'm actually going to make the scaffolding look like it's hanging from the edge of the cliff. So we definitely want to. I think what I want to do is I want to have my path come up this edge and then come down here onto some scaffolding. But I want to lower this a tiny bit because I'll probably use scaffolding to get the player down off there down to here. And then I want to try to make these two heights as close to the same as possible so that when I transition across, I don't have any slope on that. And this is actually right here going to be where our crazy vista is because the camera is going to be facing straight up this canyon. So when the player crosses this area right here, they're going to be able to see a long ways ahead of them, and they'll be able to see the water down below, and it'll look really badass. So look at these two edges; they're getting pretty close. We'll raise this middle thing up to the air. Smooth out the bottom. See how I smoothed out the bottom on this one? I kind of screwed it up, but if you go and smooth out the bottoms of these things, a little less power on this here. 50%. That's what we want. Yeah. Smooth that out. Boom. Smooth down the top. And then if you kind of just raise it back up, it makes it look a little bit more cliff-like. There we go. All right. All right. So what we're gonna do here, I think what I'm gonna do for my layout is I'm gonna get the player. You guys want to keep doing this? I'm kind of just talking to myself at this point. Ghibli, check it out. I'm gonna actually decorate these cliffs with rock objects. You guys want to keep working on this mod stuff, or you guys want to just go play some? Is this interesting? So basically, we're gonna make all of our cliffs out of primarily this one particular asset. It's really sort of a universal rock asset. So I'm actually gonna make it really big, and I'm gonna start modeling out these cliffs that I've sort of roughly laid out with this particular rock. And around the top edge of this thing, I'm actually going to use these rocks because these are rocks that you can walk on. So I can make like a sheer cliff face on the top of this and let the player walk right up against the edge of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start plastering these around here. I've seen a bunch of times people talking on the forums about how we don't actually reuse a lot of assets, and that I take as a huge compliment because we do actually reuse a lot of assets. We just are really careful about the way that we do it, and we really try to make it look like there's not a lot of repeating going on between assets. So like I'm going to use these two assets, but I'm going to kind of stagger them so that one is never really next to the other unless I've rotated it or twisted around and used the other side. So it's going to be my sheer cliff face. I kind of want this one up here like this. Boom. I want to try to make it so that the player can walk from here across to there, and then from here across to there, and then maybe I'll kind of keep that theme going so that the player's going to get a bunch of crazy vistas in here. Mud, it's true. This is kind of Paris kind of right. The content design is sort of in my blood. It's the thing that makes me the most happy in game design. And I'm kind of in my element here. I have kind of this is where I have expertise. I'm not a huge hardcore player. Like Paris said, I'm much more comfortable doing this. This is sort of a thing that I've practiced a lot, and you know, regardless of what game I'm working on, I sort of know how to do it. Whereas being awesome, I guess, in game is that's a stupid thing to say, but not necessarily my forte. I'm a much better shooter player. I love to play RPGs, ARPGs, and I've played basically all of them, but I'm not a hardcore player when it really comes down to it. So cool. We've got a crazy cool flat cliff surface up here, which we'll probably come back to later and make more awesome. But well, oh, I can't even follow what you guys are doing. I'm so focused on doing this. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this giant rock and we're going to kind of model this cliff face down below. I want to make it a little bit bigger. Not too much bigger, though, to be honest, because, well, the bigger you make it, the more chance it ends up looking dumb. Yeah, I'm going to get this down here like this. Boom. Nice fat cliff. So you'll see that like the stuff that I put on there, the height map we call it, which is this terrain stuff that I built before, is really just kind of like a guideline for where I'm actually going to build things. So once I get my rocks in there, I might actually go back in like this and sort of erase out the height map. So I want this cliff face to be all rocks, right? I don't really want it to be terrain at all. So there you go. Once I get my rocks in there, I go back and clean up the height map and I sort of move it out of the way or adjust it. I might use it in combination with it. Like you can make great rock faces with these assets, but you can't really make great sandy beaches or anything like that. And so like for back here, for example, I probably want there to be like a cool sand beach coming off the back of this, because when water goes around things like this, when water goes around cliffs, it tends to deposit stuff on the far side because you get like high current, you know, fast current here and slow current back in this area. So you get these little strips of like sandbars and stuff that come off the back of these. So we'll have that around the back of here, and that will look really cool. We're getting there. We're getting something done here. Yeah, Ghibli. It's sort of like ZBrush in a way. Unlike ZBrush, or I shouldn't say unlike ZBrush. I don't really know. I'm not a ZBrush expert. I've used ZBrush to screw around a couple times, but it's kind of like ZBrush where I made my clay model sort of first, which is this terrain, and then I'm going to go in with my much better looking models, my rocks and whatnot, and actually sort of more detailed model out the area. So I'm going to grab my bridge again. Make sure that my distance between these two is going to be okay. This is going to be an awesome vista, by the way. This one right here is going to be huge. I don't know what you're going to be able to see down there. Maybe we'll put something cool down there to see, but this is going to be a vista, like a rare vista. My stream spell spelled. Ha ha! It is spelled wrong. Let's fix it. Man, I've been having crazy typing fingers recently. There you go. Let's make a mod. All right. So we want the same thing on this far edge that we had on this edge. We want to have like a a sheer cliff face. So we're going to use these assets that you can walk on to go right up to the edge here, so the player can kind of come out on this edge. Although, you know what I want to do too? I think it would be really cool. I think it'd be really cool if this far edge was super craggy and it was maybe originally not a place where you could walk up to the edge, and then maybe the people that came here, the people that built these scaffolding, sort of filled this area with scaffolding. So we'll go back in here. I'm still going to model this with the terrain because it's sort of easier to make. Yeah, maybe this was like a place where there was like runoff or something like that. Like a. This will help with the vista too, because if we have a straight edge on the front of our vista, we won't get these sort of things where you have interesting shapes that sort of, if you look at this when the player's walking across, see there's a bridge right across the middle here. When the player's walking across, the cliff on the left and the cliff on the right are sort of framing the view in front of them. That's going to look really nice. That's sort of like photography style framing of something. Same thing with these. I want to make it so that these cliffs are going away from the player in an interesting way, so that instead of just going around the corner like a sheer face, cliff face, I can actually see some of them going around the corner. These little plateaus are going to help me do that. Sticking my tongue out. You can tell I'm working hard when I stick my tongue out. How did I learn so much about geology? I'm no expert in geology. I did take a bunch of geography classes in geography is different, but I took a bunch of geography and geology and a bunch of natural sciences classes in college because they were easy for me to pass. I have a degree in comp sci in coding, and I'm not a coder. Skillio, I have no idea what you're saying right now. Is that all French? Yeah, it takes a long time to build a map. It's a lot of work. You know, I haven't. We're not even to the place on this yet where there's like a single bit of playable space. If this was a level for the game, we might have taken time earlier on to like walk through a rough layout of it. But I think it's not likely that this is going to get used. So we'll. I want to have a cliff. I want to have a cliff edge right here, where the player can kind of walk up. What's going to happen is the player's going to come out of an underground right here. They're going to come along this area. There's going to be some scaffolding. That scaffolding is going to let the player walk down sort of to the level of this bridge. What we'll do is, you know, I'll go grab some of those scaffolding pieces that we're going to put there just so we can make that the right height. So I'm thinking like we might put something like this here, which is actually, that's pretty close right there. Boom. Like that. Right. And then we'll probably have like a sloped walkway that comes down off of this. Not with that piece though. We'll probably have a sloped walkway that comes down right off this, and we want to get it down to this height. So this area is going to be insane. This is going to be the kind of area that probably wouldn't run if we actually put it in the game. Talking about getting bad frame rate. One thing to consider when like if you're building your own stuff, I'm kind of just going crazy here because this is something that I've always wanted to do, but never did for various reasons. And one of those reasons is that this kind of area is really, really bad for performance because not only am I going to have a lot of assets in the foreground, but I'm going to have a lot of assets in the background. Like if you're standing here on this edge, you're going to get all these things for cliffs that I've used to build in the foreground, all these things for cliffs that I used to build in the background, and then God knows what else for like monsters and all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be water down there. It's going to be really, really bad for perf. So you would really not, if you built a level like this for your game, for your mod, you really would not want to have this be a combat area. You'd have to make some sacrifices elsewhere. Like maybe this particular vista isn't made for combat. It's made just for looking awesome. So you can sacrifice a little bit of your performance in that way. What's up, Biostasis? Welcome. Have you ever been to the stream before? You're new? Welcome to anybody who's new to the stream. This time, we usually play some Grim Dawn, but this time around we're doing a little bit of level building because I'm sort of feeling in the mood to do it. And I think we could build a really sweet. I've always wanted to build this canyon level, huge, expansive canyon that really made the world feel gigantic in the way that the Grand Canyon. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Grand Canyon, but when you go to the Grand Canyon, it makes you feel so small. And it really gives you like a sense of how big things can be in the world. The same could be true for like if you go to a big mountain or something like that. But The first time I went to the Grand Canyon, I was like flabbergasted how big it actually was. It's one of the few things I've seen in my life where the reality of it was more impressive than what I had imagined it would be. Anybody else think of like an example of thing that they saw in real life that was way more awesome than they thought it would be? Like I saw Jennifer Garner one time. She was way more awesome in real life than I thought she would be too. I'm gonna go silent real quick here and try to get some stuff done. I'm just gonna be keeping modeling these. I could sit here modeling these cliffs all day long. Another note on gameplay when you're building these kinds of things, like because I'm using these pathable rocks down here, this could create some weird gameplay issues. Because so for example, I'm going to have a pathable surface on the top of this, but I'm also going to have a pathable surface underneath it, and I'm also going to have pathable surfaces for each one of these rocks that are there. So for example, I have this rock here and then another rock stacked underneath it. The surface of this is pathable, and also the surface of this is pathable. So if you're spawning a bunch of monsters around here, things could get really crazy. I'm not so worried about that at the moment because that's not really what I'm making this level for. I'm really making this level to be crazy, but to build a thing that we would not normally build, sort of. So I'm not really worried about the gameplay in this area. Same as I'm not really paying any consideration to the performance problems that it might cause. Something I think I'm not getting quite right here is that framing effect, because I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried when the player actually comes across here that the camera view is not going to be really great. So I'm actually going to do. It's really hard to test what it is right now because the terrain's. All right, so this is all right. This is the default camera angle, and this is kind of like what the player's view is like when they're coming across here. And I kind of can't see both sides of this cliff well enough. That might be okay. It might be okay. I'm thinking maybe I might move some of this, like move this cliff edge out further, so it's more out in the middle there, like that. I was gonna make a cool overhang like that right there. Kind of jut that back in. Boom. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Super Trooper. We're gonna stay here for a little bit longer. I'm not going at least until 1:30, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see. Part of the reason I moved this stream earlier is so that I could take essentially what is my lunchtime to do it too. Um, Feeling a little bit guilty taking so much time from the mod to from the mod, pardon me, for the expansion pack to work on to do stream stuff. So do it during the middle of the day. Take some of my lunchtime to do it. Ooh, look at that. Don't tell Madeira that I'm taking lunch. All right, I think we're looking pretty good here. This is coming out pretty neat. I'm just going to keep modeling these rocks in here. Maybe once we get this cliff section done, we'll start trying to fit in some of our uh, our scaffolding in there to get this really complete. But Another thing we might want to do right now is throw in our water level so that we can see what the water is going to look coming through here, because we want the cliffs to have a nice edge on the water. So later on, we have two different water tools. There's a river making tool. There's actually three, I suppose. This tool is for making the edges of water where it's touching cliffs. It's really expensive, so we almost never use it. There's a river making tool, which lets you draw a spline and the river can run through that. And then there's just a straight up water tool. For now, since I don't really know what the shape of my river is going to end up being in the end, I'm just going to use the regular water tool. Okay, here's my, boom. Yeah, the direction of that water is terrible. But I do probably want to get the direction just right. So we'll go back in here, tune some of this stuff. We want the speed. I like crank up the smoothness. I think the water looks better when it's a little bit smooth. Crank down the spec just a little bit. There we go. Reflectivity down just a tiny bit. Direction. See if we can get our direction going the right way here. Back here. All right, that's close enough. We have a darker sky. I don't remember where the skies are. Let's just change our color. At some point, we'll probably want to go in here. We'll make the water so that you can see down into it a little bit. But for now, I just want to know what level the water is going to be at. This tool works exactly like the plateau tool. Like you essentially you pick a height, then you paint. I want the water a little bit higher than that though. Just like the other ones with the square bracket, you can set the size of the brush. That's probably going to work. I'll probably have to make the. I think that looked good. I think I liked it where it was. Yeah, I think I like the water better the way it was before. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the water the way this is. So I'll lower it back down where it was. That's probably good. Then we get our sandbar that's coming out of the back of this. That looks great. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to the stream at all. I'm losing myself here. So we're almost done. We're almost done setting up this top part of our cliff. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish setting up this top part. If we have any time left, I'm gonna start getting some of the scaffolding in here, so that we can see where the playable area is actually going to be. Because a lot of this cliff stuff is not actually going to be the playable area in what we're building. The playable area is going to be on top of the scaffolding itself. Yeah, look at that vista. That's going to be insane, isn't it? That's pretty crazy looking down in there. One of the things that's a little bit unfortunate is I've kind of my camera angle's not great here. So I think what I might do is I might cut this edge back in a little bit more, like that. So that there's, again, like a vista is not as interesting when it just has a straight edge as it is when it has stuff that's sort of like in the foreground too. So like I'll have this. So what I'll end up with here is I'll end up with this edge and then another edge down below it. So like an edge here and then an edge down here. That kind of gives it more detail. It also lets me see up the river more now that I've cut this edge back in like that. looks awesome. Now I was thinking that this was like a water runoff that caused this groove, so I'll probably continue that groove right up into here. And because we're going to use the scaffolding, we could just make one of those like scaffolding bridges come across here for where we want the player to walk across. One thing you want to think about when you're making your level though is when you do stuff like this, even if you put a bridge going across here, like if I put a bridge right here, that's fine. The player can go out there, but that makes players feel like that's not the primary route through an area. Like if I was to take one of these scaffolding bridges, which is what I'm probably going to do eventually, like this, and put this bridge here, that's all well and good, and players that come through here can see that this is a way that you can go. But a lot of times players will think, okay, well that's not the primary route, and then they'll probably track along this edge trying to find the right way to go. But the way that I've set it up here is if they track along this edge, they're going to be able to see down below them, down here, that there's actual playable space down there. So that'll kind of remind them, like, I'm moving along this edge because they decided to not go across the bridge, but they'll see down here, they'll see the scaffolding, and they'll see that they can actually walk across that. So that'll help a little bit. Thank you, Para. I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. I have been doing this a long time. I'd love to have a bunch of people in here so we could talk about ways to do it better and design theory and all that kind of stuff. But if you guys are interested, if you guys are interested, and maybe some of you guys are just would rather play some Grim Dawn, maybe I'll split up the streams and I'll do one during the week that's like a dev stream where we do some of this stuff, and then one during the week where we do some of the other stuff, actually play and make fun of me because I'm not badass enough. Trying to look for this other one, other piece that I want. There we go. I want to open this up a little bit too, because if you noticed before when I was coming through here, I couldn't see down there very well. So like the camera angle is like this. And if I open up this little notch, it gives me a little bit more to see out there. So little things like that make a big difference. Improve those views. One of the things that you always have to consider is again like that. What's that default camera view? Because most players in this kind of game are going to keep the camera in that default camera view unless you give them some sort of gameplay incentive to not do it. Like if turning around is advantageous in some way, they'll do it. Even if you make it so that like the best way to find loot is to look around behind stuff, players just won't do it. It's like a weird mental thing. All right, cool. Now this is good. So what we'll have is, even though it would be better if the camera's facing like this, but if the camera's facing like this, then I don't get the views up the river. So I'm kind of struggling. I'm actually using. Mud's asking if I'm use this level or making it for fun. I'm making it for fun, but if you look in the like if we go back to the art manager and we look at the list of mods, basically all the designers have stuff that they've created for fun, because when you do that, a lot of times you can come back and be like, oh, remember that thing I made that stuff I set up to look like a giant bridge, or that thing I made to look like an awesome canyon. That might be useful in the future. So we'll keep it around. You never know. We might use it. Like I said, it's probably a bit of an extreme area for gameplay. This performance in here is going to be pretty bad because right now all we have is the stuff in the foreground, but eventually I'm going to have to go back here and put stuff down these cliffs and stuff too, which is just going to add to the number of assets that are in here pretty dramatically. And that's the number of assets in a scene has an impact on performance. It's not the worst one, but it's a negative impact for sure. All right, so this is going to be good. Let's cut this in a little bit further too. I'm getting kind of excited about this level. It looks badass. I do want this to be something that people get to see and get to play. Oh, Elfie, that's what it used to call it back in the day. We used to call it art manager. I guess asset manager is the more correct term, but back in Iron Lord days, I think we always called it Art Manager. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I made that up. Maybe I just misremembering. That was more than a decade ago. I don't know if you've noticed, but I stick my tongue out when I'm doing this kind of work, and it makes me look really stupid. I'm really self-conscious about it. It's kind of weird right there. I don't like that very much. Skipper X83, thanks for the host, man. Unfortunately, I think we're going to be ending the stream here before too long. I can't take up Zantai's time, and I can't take up too much of my time from the XPack dev. But I'm really excited about this level, so I think I might actually keep working on it at some point. I don't know what good it's going to be, but maybe we can use it for something. Yeah, that looks sweet. Look at that. That's badass. All right, so that's pretty much it for the stream today. I'm sorry I haven't done much talking, guys. I get a little bit too focused when I'm doing this kind of stuff, but I think we got a pretty good start on our canyon. It's going to look pretty epic with these scaffold going down through it. I might actually continue to work on this level if any of you are interested. I don't know if there's other people on here that actually want to watch somebody make levels, but particularly levels that might not end up in the game. But if you guys are interested, I might keep working on this level at some point for a future stream or something. I'm pretty stoked about it. It looks like this is going to be a pretty epic area, so I think I want to keep doing it. But this is a good example. This is a good example too of, as I was saying before, a bunch of people have commented in the past. I've seen people comment about how we don't do a lot of reuse, and I think it's not that we don't reuse assets. It's just that we try to be really smart about how we do them, how we do that. If you look at this, I've made this entire level area with 4 assets. I got the 2 little edges that I'm using for my sheer cliff faces, and I've got the one little big peak cliff piece that I'm using for my cliff faces. And I've got this piece of scaffolding. Eventually, I'll have 15 or 20 different types of scaffolding in here, and we'll have to use some terrain textures to make these places look like terrain, and maybe back away from the cliff, we'll do some trees and stuff like that. But you can do a lot with very little, and if you're smart about how you use it, it doesn't really look like you're reusing it that much. And the more we progress through this level, the less this stuff is going to look like it's reused. Eventually, the top cliff faces here will have grass on them, and you won't really notice that it's the same asset over and over again. But in any case, I think that's pretty much it for the day. I'm sorry I can't just sit here and do this with you guys for 3-4 hours. I'd love to do that, but I appreciate you all joining, hanging out with me. Our next stream will probably be at 2, maybe regular time. If you guys actually, let's do a quick vote before we close it down. What do you guys think about the time that I did this? I did it 2 hours earlier than I normally do. Does that work better for everybody? What do you think? I'm all for doing it earlier if you guys think. I'm flexible on time. The only problem is I can't do it much later. Thank you, Conan. Thank you for joining. I don't think I've seen you in here before, or maybe I have, and I'm just not remembering. Do it later. Okay. Okay. Cool. You like the 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock is perfect. All right, man. Tell you what we'll do. If this works for some people and doesn't work for other people, we'll do the normal stream at 2 o'clock, and then maybe we'll do a supplemental stream, or maybe we'll do one of the other ones at a different time. Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining again. I really appreciate it. We'll do some more level design in the future. Maybe I'll work on this, tinker with this a little bit off hours during the week. And when you guys come back, I'll have a bunch more done on it. But here's our epic view. I mean, I think you can imagine how awesome that's going to be at some point, right? Looking down there with the scaffolding and the river and all that stuff. So in any case, thanks again. Talk to you soon.